So for this passport holder or hot pad, what I'm going to use is some pieces of scraps that I have in my scrap box. And I want to start with this one because I love the colors in this one. It has a blue and green, it has spotty kind of feels to it. So I really want to use this one. And this one seems to be a little small, so I think about 3 inch. And what I'm going to do is a simple patch. So I'm just going to be based on that one. So I'm not going to have a fixed size for the pot holder or hot pad that I'm going to be making. So it's up to you as well to use your scraps and what works best. So what I'm feeling is that with this one I have about 3 inch. I'm going to cut all of these into 3 inch squares, and then we're going to put together whether it's going to be 4x4 or 3x3, and that depends on how big you want your hot pad as well. So we'll go and cut these into 3 inch squares because these are about 3 inches. So it depends. If you have a piece of that is 3.5 inches, you probably want to cut 3.5 inches squares. If you have a 2.5 inches, maybe you want to cut some of them in 2.5 inches square. So I have decided to also pick this one as my binding fabrics, and I'm going to cut it into a bias binding fabric. So we're going to have a corner that is kind of rounded. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. We're going to work with that later on. What I'm going to do is just trim this one to the side and have a few of 1/4 inch. So this is 4 layers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. That means I need about 4 more. 4 times 4 means you get 16. So I'm just going to trim that. So once you've got those cut, what you want to go with that is just play around with the layout. So I'm gonna pick randomly. So what I'm thinking of having a dark center, like a kind of a T-square like that, and I want that in the corner. And then we're gonna have that there, and then that in the corner. If you have a directions, you may want to just focus on how to put the directions. And I'm going to put the last one right there. So I've actually cut extras. Doesn't matter, you make more out of this one, or you can just skip it in your scrap box. So this is my layout that I think will look good for mine. So I will have a 9 patch into hot pad that will make about 6.5 inch of squares hot pad, and I think that's a good size for my hot pad. So I'm going to sew this row by row together. So basically I'm going to put this one right here like that, this one right here, and then I'm going to sew all along this side and then come back and then just sew the other sides. So let's go to the sewing machine and get this done. So now I am back at the table here. I have pieced all of this together, nesting the seams so that this one goes outside towards the outside, this one goes towards the inside, and this one goes towards the outside. Now press these seams so that it comes flat together, and you want to cut out your batting. So this is a special batting for hot pads. It has a bit of shiny bits on the front. It is meant for hot pads. And then I have the normal batting and also the backing fabrics. So these are going to stack on top of each other, and then we're going to quilt this on top. Now you can practice your free motion quilting, or just do a simple stitch in the ditch or a straight line quilting, whatever you prefer. So if you feel like you need to baste it, maybe you can just baste it sparsely before you go ahead and quilt them together. So I'm basting all the 4 layers together. Now you may opt to actually just choose this layer, but I find this layer is very thin, so I like to use another cotton batting at the back just to help that purpose of being a hot pad. Alright, so now I'm going to go to my machine and quilt this, and out. Okay. So these are already quilted. Both sides, you can see at the back is already nicely quilted. So what I'm gonna do is actually just to have a rounded corners. So I'm actually using one of the template that I have here. You can basically use a plate, a small cup, just to trace off the little bit about the corner. So I'm just gonna use that little bit. I'm gonna probably mark where I'm actually taking it. So I'm gonna do that for all the 4 corners. Okay, so I am at the cutting table now. I want to show you how to actually make a bias binding tape. So basically what we want to do first is actually have a square here. So we want to go ahead and, so you have a big one, then you want to probably measure a little bit. I'm not going to measure because I'm using scraps. I'm trying to just finish this off. I think it's going to be enough because the hot pad is not big anyway. So what I'm going to do is actually make it into a triangle like this shape right here, and then I'm just going to finger press that slowly, and then what we're going to do is actually cut along that line. You want to go ahead and see that. So there, I'm going to see it. So what I'm going to do is actually cut along that line, right? Right. Now that I have that there, what I'm going to do is actually, this now is going to be the straight line. So what you want to do is, so basically it comes from there, right? So it's like that. Now you want to have the straight edge here, the straight edge. So this is the bias edge where it's actually biased. You want to go ahead and bring this right here and sew this together. And then later on we're going to cut along this line here. So basically you have some excess here. Once we put that together, we're going to have a, we are going to cut all the way from here to here in 2 inches, 2 inches, and 2 inches. We're going to have that kind of lengthy there. So what I'm going to do is actually sew this together first. So I'm going to just flip that and just sew that. Okay, so I've sewn that together. So basically now what I'm going to do is actually turn it around. So you have that. You want to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to cut along 2 inches along this way. So basically I have something that looks like that. It's a bit weird, but we really don't, I'm not going to use that excess there. So basically if you look like this, so your sewn line would be a 45 degrees line to this straight line that you're about to cut, and then we're going to just fold it, so because it's long, right? So I'm going to put that aligned with one of the sides, and then we're going to cut into 2 and a quarter or 2 1/2, preferably whatever you prefer for your binding. So I'm going to use 2 1/4. So I'm just going to put that right 2 1/4. Oops, that's 1 1/4. Woo! 1, 2 1/4. 1, 2 1/4. So I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to cut that. So that's going to be my first part. I don't think that's going to be enough. I think that's going to be long enough. So we have that all the way. So what I'm going to do is actually find the one that I can piece down together, and I'm going to piece that together. So I turn it around, just piece that together, and then I have one, I think enough for my little hot pad. So we'll see. So if you don't have enough, you can cut another one just in case, just to get ready. 1, 2 1/4. And I'm going to get that right there. Okay. So that's another spare one. You can also make 3 of them, so just find the one that matches with the one that you can match and simply put them together and sew on the line, and that you can have a longer binding tape. Okay, so by the look of it, my 2 pieces straps that I pushed together just now is going to be enough to go around. I'm just going to roughly do this, right? This is how I really do it. I'm not really going to have a measurement. This is how I really do this. So it's going to be excess, more than enough for me to actually go around and make a kind of a twist so that I can hang it with. So that's going to be plenty. I'm going to press this into half and then iron it. So I'm going to press this with a hot iron and get it to fold into 2 like that, and then we'll come back and bind this hot pad together. So for the hang, I decided to actually make another piece. So this is the extra from the binding. I've just cut a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is just press that somewhere in the middle and get that one also in the middle, more than in the middle. So when I go ahead and just press that together, it's going to be hidden, like the seams is going to be hidden. I'm going to sew along both sides of this, along this line, to just close that up. Okay, so now that I have this piece sewn together on the edge like that, I want to create this sort of like breast cancer ribbon. So you want to go ahead and have that flipped over that way, and what I'm going to do is actually place that there because I want to have it hanged up like this, like flat like that. So if you want to hang up like this, you may want to place that over there, and then that's going to stay right there. So what I'm going to do is actually have that, so if you want it flat like that, so you want to go ahead and pin there, or if you want it at the corner, then pin it right there. That's kind of something lovely too. I probably want to pin it there, so I've changed my mind. I'm going to pin it right there, so that is going to be flipping that way. When we sew it together, it's going to be flipped that way. So I'm going to pin that in place, and then we're going to put the binding on. So instead of pinning, I decided to actually just sew over there just to baste it. So I've sewn that. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but that's navy there, right there, just sewn that together so that it's fixed like that. Now I'm going to use the binding tape. We're going to start somewhere that's easy to start, so I'm thinking somewhere around straight lines here. So we're going to start there. So I'm going to sew it from the back, and then later on we're going to flip it to the front bit. Now you can cut this off, or you can just leave it like this first, but don't start right at the corner. So you want to start somewhere there and leave this kind of like empty like that. So what I'm going to do is probably sew there so that I have some space but later on to just put this together, right? So I'm going to start here all the way around. So if you are at the corner, make sure you just follow the corner bits like that. You just sew a 1/4 inch away from the edges still. Now I'm at my machine, so basically I'm using a walking foot because it's a very thick pile. So I'm going to just keep that a 1/4 inch and keep sewing. So as I reach the corner, I probably just want to make sure that the raw edges are all met up, and just go ahead and do your 1/4 inch all the way around and stop where you get to meet this one back here, right? So I'm just going to go around all the way. So once I've got to the end of that, so I've stopped right there, just at the corner where this has the meeting point. So what I did is actually to kind of just press that inside, and you want to go ahead and just put that like that. You're going to see it's going to meet up there, and this is just going to press inside all the way. So when you fold it, it's going to be looking like that. So just press that in place, and then you're going to go ahead and just finish off that a little bit until the place where you actually have that in place, right? So we're going to just put that inside. Let's just do that. I'm going to put that inside there. So now we're going to sew through the first layer there and the second layer on top. So we're going to put that right there. and we're going to go all the way. So we're going to continue all the way inside there. So basically the top layer now is going to go inside the first layer that we had, and we're going to cut that off somewhere around just a little more than it can be. So you can just like slip that inside, and you want to go ahead and just finish that off all the way. There you go. So I'm done with that. So basically now we have that extra, you can just remove that. You can flip it around now. So you might have something like a pocket there, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. So basically now we can just turn all of this around. And this is the part where we have this hanger here. So you can make that a little bit more neat. Remove all the unnecessary piece, and we are going to sew on the other side to just secure that. You can use a hand stitch to just close this up. I'm just going to go with my machine. So basically I'm just taking some time to just press all those in place nicely, and you may want to remove some bulk areas like this. So I'm going to remove the bulk here. You can move a little bit more, got some bulky areas, right? So like that, the corners there. So basically when you have this turn around, it's going to be perfectly like that. So do that for all the corners. You may want to just reduce. If you feel like it's fine, then it's okay. And you can just sew that all the way together. So as you come to the corner, you may want to slow down. You can use a basting glue if you want to just baste all of this together before you start sewing it. I am not going to do that. I'm that kind of person. So I'm just going to go ahead and just finish that off. So I guess that's the hot pad done. You have nice rounded corners. You can throw some of the extra, just make everything neat. That looks quite okay to me, just making sure that everything is caught. And that's the first hot pad of this 52 weeks of hot pad. Hopefully that you can join me along. I have to say I'm sorry for the kind of like rushing away through the videos, but I'm hoping that it's going to be helpful somehow for you to start your own hot pads. And yeah, hopefully the videos is helping you a little bit, right? Bye bye.